Tonight, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is calling for the scrapping of all increments on margins recently imposed by the National Petroleum Authority. We'll be joined by the Executive Director of ACEP, Ben Boachi, on this issue. Also, large manufacturing companies in Ghana respond to recent hike in fuel prices, effect dates of new levies, as well as its attendant increase in goods and services. We place a spotlight on Blue Skies as its MD as well as other management joins us for a critical discussion. Plus, transport consultant pushes for a marginal increase in transport fares after meeting with government and stakeholders ended inconclusively over proposed margin of increase.
Transport owners are also asking for an increment. Government is also looking at not understanding. We should agree and then, get the economy moving.
Hello and welcome. My name is Charles Aite. To our top story, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is calling for the scrapping of all increments on the margins recently imposed by the National Petroleum Authority. The Executive Director of ACEP, Ben Boachi, joins us with more via Zoom. Ben Boachi, we're so grateful for your presence here on Business Live. First of all, you have issued out this particular statement, and one instructive part of the statement is the fact that this isn't an innovative way of attracting revenue, considering what is happening on the petroleum sector.
Yes, I mean, you're right. What we have assessed and realized is that even though there are low-hanging opportunities to raise more revenue from a sector that is so riddled with illegality and smuggling, more taxes are being pushed down the throat of consumers. That we find very worrying. And I think right after the passage or introduction of the 30th West in the budget, we started having this conversation that it could have been better managed to ensure that we go after the existing opportunities in the sector and not pile more taxes on the petroleum product. But that is in law, and therefore we can let it slide. But to also realize that whilst imposing the legally established 30th West, NPA also introduces additional margins, on the back of those increases. It's shocking because, I mean, we are talking about margins that cumulatively generate between 3.5 and 4 billion Ghana cedis annually. And nobody cares to even account for those margins for the consumer to know how much those margins have been used for the object of setting them up. We are only told to pay more when the regulators feel so. And we think that that cannot be the situation. That cannot be the case, where accountability for such huge sums of money is totally missing. And we can go further to even look at the specifics, okay? What these margins are meant for, the UPPF, the BOST margin, and the fuel margin. BOST margin, we have been paying BOST margin for decades, right? And we don't see, the company using the revenue to deliver on the object of setting up the fund. And that is to keep a reserve so that when we so critically need it, we'll be able to call on that reserve capacity. BOST doesn't have that reserve. And we continue to pay margins to sustain that kind of inefficiency as they are established to be doing in recent times. Beyond that also, BOST is now charging commercial rates. It is actually actively trading on the market with the traders, and they are charging commercial rate for their services. So if they are doing business, why do we continue to subsidize a company that is in business? Because all the tank managers, they invest their money, charge commercial rates, maintain their facility, and grow. But we are paying BOST to keep infrastructure, and then they charge commercial rates.
So you feel there's a disconnect there?
Subsidizing a state company to compete against other private entities that have made their own investment. So the public is just unnecessarily being burdened for an object that is not being met. And that big conversation is really up for us to have on what boss does with the levy. And all of a sudden, we are slapped with additional adjustment, which further stretches the average Ghanaian in this particular time where COVID and high cost of living is rather batting everybody.
So you feel there's a disconnect in the tax elements there, but I want to take you to a particular paragraph of your statement which strikes so much information, and you're calling that government needs to commence to critical review of the object of all the agencies and companies in the energy sector to ascertain the relevance of each one of them under the portfolio of government business to cut the waste and as well translate tax and margins to development outcomes. What is it that we don't know regarding this particular paragraph when it comes to wasteful spending, revenue mobilization and execution of projects?
So if you check, the price buildup, we have taxes that are actually going to sustain wastage in the energy sector. The power sector alone is taking about 59 pesos currently on every liter for debt that we continue to accumulate in the power sector. And that is about 1.6 billion Ghana cedis annually. That is money, if we are able to clear the waste in the power sector, we can use for the development of the education sector, health sector, agriculture sector, and all other sectors that may be relevant to uplift the living standards of our people. But we are paying that money to sustain inefficiency and waste. And that cannot continue to happen. And we've done that for over a decade. And we are still doing it with no end in sight. And that worries us. For how long are we going to do or continue this kind of wastage in the energy sector? And it's the same with all the margins that are imposed. We are not reviewing, nobody's accounting to us what those monies are actually utilized for. And we continue to pay. So it is important that we have a conversation on some of these levies to see how we clean up the energy sector, examine the institutions that are benefiting from these levies, and see which one is relevant, which one is not. How do we retool them for them to be efficient and waive those kind of waste from petroleum products? And even if you did that, you'll be able to use that kind of fund to engineer development, to build the roads, to provide transportation for people and all of that.
I get your point.
So we need to really have a critical look on some of these wastage and see how we fix it going forward.
Great. But Ben, if you could end on this particular note, one of your recommendations, in fact, the fifth recommendation is that the MP, you're requesting that the MP investigates the coincidental adjustment of OMC margins and demonstrates to the people of Ghana how it intends to prevent anti-competitive behavior in the downstream sector. This has been a talk of town, of course, when it comes to issues regarding the adjustment of, petrol prices. What is informing this particular recommendation?
No, I think we are all part, of the process of pushing for deregulation. And that was to ensure that there is greater competition on pricing and also how much profit businesses can make from the consumer. So competition was the essence of pushing for deregulation and also to limit government indebtedness and the waste. But you cannot have a situation where OMCs come together and decide that when government is going to adjust prices, they will come together and overnight adjust their prices with specific margin across the board. That is pure cartelization. They're becoming cartels rather than driving the price based on their costs or participating in the business, which is expected to actually benefit the consumer. But with this particular adjustment that we saw on the back of government announcement, it was almost as if all the OMC decided that this is the time, this is it. Let us adjust our prices. What is even intriguing is that the top 5 were almost at the same level. When we said they should do the 47 adjustment, they added 16 pesos, and all of them went to 6.13 cedis per liter. That is not competition. That is creating cartels. And NPA really has to look into this to ensure that it doesn't persist or it doesn't continue, and that these OMCs will compete based on their cost and their true margins that the competition actually dictates.
Ben Boache, we're so grateful that you joined us. Executive Director of ASEP there, calling for the complete scrapping of the NPA's recent introductions regarding fuel prices. Away from that, we have brought you stories on the impact of recent fuel price hikes and the introduction of levies on small to large businesses. In fact, the Hotels Association has lamented a hike in the cost of production in spite of all these increments. Tonight, we put the spotlight on larger industries who definitely are feeling the pinch of these increments. We're joined by the Managing Director of Ghana's largest beverage manufacturers, Blue Skies, project manager actually of Blue Skies, Alistair Jimate. Alistair, we're so grateful that he joined us. Good evening to you. You crisscross plantations in Ghana and maybe abroad, sourcing for raw materials to make your products. How is this full increment impacting the value chain of production of large, industries like Blue Skies?
Anyway, let me say good evening to you and to our viewers and listeners. And let me also clarify that, yes, I'm in charge of public affairs at Blue Skies. I've not risen to the post of the managing director yet. Maybe that's for the future.
Exactly.
And thank you very much for the question. I think whilst I would want to admit that the increase, no matter how significant it may be, would have a very serious impact on our production. The reason, because across the value chain, and just like the earlier speaker said, we think maybe the timing could have been properly done because, yes, from the farm to the factory and looking at our numbers and our staff, it is definitely going to have an impact. But as usual, we are a business that is always focused, and some of these things can easily be anticipated. And to remain sustainable means that we need to find the best way of operating to make sure that in spite of all these hikes and challenges, we remain in business. Every company and the industries are seriously still crawling out of the impact of COVID, and that makes it a bit challenging. From our perspective, yes, it definitely tells you that our farmers then very soon will be coming across with some changes or review of prices, because definitely their production costs will go up. We have to spend more in transporting our staff and also moving our raw material or finished product from the factory to the airport. So yes, we admit that there is the need for us to have some adjustment so that government can possibly accrue the right revenue. But we also, it's also important mentioning that it is definitely going to overburden industry. And we are hoping that it will not be so, the impact will not be so great, so we'll be able to manage and crawl our way out.
Well, Alistair, of course, you have a strong workforce of over 3,000 workers. And as you sit back and see these figures play out, new levies taking effect, fuel prices increasing, transport fares also shooting up, how is this informing you as, a company, an export-based manufacturing firm?
Well, definitely it needs some form of re-strategizing. We need to sit back and look at the impact carefully and see how we reorganize ourselves. Definitely, because we feed our staff a day, it means that what we even use in feeding our staff, the cost to go up. We transport our staff back and from and to work. It means that our fuel usage, every aspect, and especially around this time where we don't have consistent power supply, it means that there will be more fuel usage, and with this increase. So yes, as a business, like I said, we anticipate some of these things, but then we have to re-strategize. The impact, like I said, we just pray that it will not be so great that will lead to some structural adjustments. But we are quite focused, and we are hoping that we'll be able to fit within the system and ensure that we remain sustainable, because we must continue to operate so that we'll continue to add value to the wonderful raw material that we have and continue to create jobs for the teeming Ghanaians. And recently, we did a bit of recruitment even in COVID. And you can see the numbers, the pressure, and it tells you that there's the need for us to lower some of this high affinity for taxes so that we can allow companies and industries and that flexibility so we'll be able to employ more people.
Let me end by asking you this question of competitiveness, Alistair, because we do know that even though a manufacturing giant like Blue Skies has the muscle to compete, we're having other struggling local industries who are just having to bear the brunt of all that's happening. How does this pose a challenge for competitiveness in the wake of the Continental Free Trade Agreement area?
Well, just like many other people you have spoken to, there's definitely, you see, the higher the cost of production, it makes it very difficult for local industries to compete. We have always been comparing ourselves to other industries in China and other places because their government most times subsidize their production costs. But here, most industries have to bear the cost of production. And so it's going to be very difficult. We wish that it was not so, but we would have to adjust to it and make sure that, like I said, we restructure so that we remain in business. We are very hopeful that in spite of all these challenges, we'll continue to remain in business and will serve the good people of Ghana. And we are hoping that just like us, many other industries would strategize so we'll remain competitive. It is very, very important for the growth and development of our economy and for this country.
I'm quite curious to note, finally, Alistair, I just want to find out, are there medium to long-term possible meetings with government for some rebates just to cushion large industries like Blue Skies and even struggling ones from what's happening currently?
Yeah, I think the chamber and all the other associations have noted the challenges and these issues being raised by industry. And I think there will be the need, though we are not formally received any communication with that to that effect. But we are hoping that we'll definitely have to come together and see how we'll engage government and see how we'll push in industry. So that Blue Skies, like you said, we may look like a giant, but until you get closer, you may not know. And it is important that even giants like Blue Skies are protected so that we remain sustainable.
Definitely. Alistair, we're so grateful that he joined us. He's the Public Affairs Manager for Blue Skies, helping us understand how they're going to survive amidst the hike in fuel prices and its attendant increase in transport fares. Let's now hear from some market traders my colleague Nicholas Brown spoke with concerning the impact of the upward fuel price adjustment on their commodities.
Started adjusting their prices according to the new taxes that have been imposed on petroleum products. To this particular end, we are here at the Malam Atta market to find out from, traders on whether or not goods and services have been increased due to the increase in fuel prices.
De biya tu nyame de biya tu ne kura me ko fa lukuzi ya tu mu na me gusu kasa kasa me be sa lukuzi nrade senti we me ton say de biya tu ade ton 5 cedi ma ko ton 28 menyan 2 cedi no pa ko no so do sa man rubber no so aka ho de biya tu ama say dwa no enkoye maye.
She's basically explaining, mentioning some of the goods that, their prices have gone up. They're saying that each and every day they increase the price of some of these, goods. So she's basically calling on the government to actually do something about it.
Yes, it affects all the goods and stuff. Normally, the money you used to go and buy the goods, now you have to increase. So every day you have to add another money to it. They are saying because of the virus, that's why the prices of our goods are increased.
Prices now are too much. Ukraine. Fuel prices now. Ama bibia kosoro. Na many Ukraine. Uko fani mana. U banso na beton kura unhuso. Affecting papa. Nyama kosoro too much. Nti abansho bi no nyama.
She's basically indicating that when you look at the old stock that she has, increased the prices of the old stock that she has because, prices of fuel and other services have also been increased.
Today I will be ya tutu nyamenu. Ebi okita ska okoto nimse okoto we ubenya crate pack be 10 obekono 5 pe na odi abefi odi be ba store nti mo nhye aban no nhye taxes no is too much yewu onhye no nte so no nye bibi mfa ho enu nti na yetu abama ano no onhye no nye bibi mfa ho na ye bre bibia akase ye humi ne pe na aka obetum aden why
All right. So, I mean, she's singing the same hymn from the same book. I mean, indicating that each and every day they are increasing prices of goods, the various taxes that the government have, introduced. I mean, she is stating that it's killing them. I mean, literally. So, pleading on the government to, one way or the other, come to their aid to reduce some of the imposition of these new taxes and the petroleum prices of the petroleum products.
That was Nicholas Brown interacting with some market women there on the impact of transport fares on their pocket. Well, still on issues regarding the hike in fuel prices, transport consultant Cecil Gabra is pushing for a marginal increase in transport fares rather than what is being proposed. Now, this was after a meeting between government and stakeholders to agree on the proposed 15% hike in fares ended without any agreement. Joy Business is learning that this was due to differences by the parties on the margin of increase. Cecil Gabra spoke to me earlier on the marketplace regarding the proposed 5% increase in fares.
I think even with the 5% is fine, but the government should do something else to absorb this fuel increment. I mean, we all know we are suffering. I mean, it's all over the world that the crude oil price per barrel is still going up, but something must really be done. And I trust the government will cushion the economy by most probably looking at absorbing the increment, because this is not going to help us at all. It's going to affect businesses, and there's no pay rise. There's no pay rise in any situation. The situation is really difficult, as my good friend will say. It's becoming chaotic this very moment.
So you have painted to us the picture how dire situations are, not just in Ghana, but on the global market as well. Yesterday we saw this meeting end with, the 15% hike in fares not being approved. Of course, the Energy Ministry had to downplay that to about 8 pesos. And of course, they've maintained the current environment warrants the margin of increment. Do you agree to this particular import of concern?
Well, at the moment, it's a 50-50 concern. I mean, once the transport owners are also asking for an increment, government is also looking at not understanding. We should agree and then, get the economy moving. However, I am saying for a fact that if we come back and look at a situation where we have a formula for working this increment at least twice a year, so we don't have any meetings, and I believe that the meetings, people are going to be paid allowances and so on. That is also affecting the economy. So we'll leave it like this, but let's get the formula in place.
You're still watching Business Live. We're taking a short break this day. And I trust that you've been updated on all business-related matters here in Ghana and abroad with the summaries of the international business news. That's how we end Business Live. My name is Charles Aitib. Many thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of our programs.